This question is from Christian. In this position, one of your responsibilities is to uphold the social pillar. How will you ensure that during your term, this pillar will be upheld? What foundations do you want to create?
For the social pillar, I feel like this is like something that I really want to uphold because I know a lot of people in Kasamahan are very social, and that is our community here. So for me, I think things that I had a lot of ideas on what I wanted to implement as far as like when we are together in our spaces, to not only like ask everyone how they are, but also to I wanted to do these like Google Drive doc thingies where I could ask people questions on like what did they think about the thing that we had this day. Say it was an event or something like that. I want to see the feedback, and I also want to hear not even just from like Google Docs, but also I want to do kind of like a in-person type of thing. If somebody wants to meet up and like actually talk, because I'm an in-person type of person rather than just Google Drives and like sheets and things like that. So I was thinking of me and my co just kind of like sitting, like having our office hours and having people come to us about what did they like about the event or what did they not like about the event, so we can change and grow for future events that we plan, and we just continue growing and keep continuing to push it through. So yeah.
Could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
In this position, one of your responsibilities is to uphold the social pillar. How will you ensure that during your term, this pillar will be upheld? What foundations do you want to create?
Okay. For me, at least, I want to look further ahead than just next year. Obviously, the social aspect of Kasamahan is very important to this organization, as we are a very big organization where there's a lot of us here. And because there's such a large number, I feel that it can be easy to be caught up in the idea that like because there's so many people and you might not know as many people as others, that you might just kind of be left in a corner, left in a shadow. So I think it's important that we kind of lay the foundation so then there's a more welcoming environment, and that's why my emphasis is so heavy on first years and new members. Is rather than, like I said, looking to next year, we need to think years down the line when we're getting more experience in this organization and eventually graduating out. If we can cultivate the impression of the first years and create a culture that they see as welcoming, they're just going to take that culture and they're ultimately going to be the ones to decide how the culture of Kasamahan is in the future, and hopefully that just strengthens our social pillar.
So to uphold the social pillar, I would like, of course, work with reps and other elected officers so we can hold a variety of events that will a lot of people enjoy, not just like maybe a certain type of event. So the more events, you can have more people come. And also like to see a lot more people come to a lot of events, especially like even in cultural events. I know some of them are attendance is a little bit low. I'd love to see like a lot of you. I'd love to see even more, as well as for foundations. I would like to be that welcoming and inviting presence of Kasamahan.
I recognize that participating in a social space isn't the easiest thing for a lot of people. And when we think of the events that typically we might associate with the social pillar, like friendship games or GBM Jam, not that those are the only things, but I know that those can be out of people's comfort zone a lot of the time. And I want to ensure that I'm able to create a space and create different events and activities that people can come to that kind of cater to those different capacities and those different comfort levels. Some events might have higher energy, some events might be quainter, maybe quieter, a little calmer. Some events might be remote or hybrid or in person, just to account for like, we have commuter students, we have people who can't stay on campus super late, so that is something I also want to be mindful of. Poopy, there was something else I was going to say. That's okay. Yeah.
Jamel's kind of touched on this, but Kasamahan draws in a diverse group of individuals who come from a variety of backgrounds and different capacities. How will you strive to be inclusive with your events?
Okay, I will just keep going. So, off of that, like, of course, I want to create different like mediums and platforms by which people can participate in events. Because again, like thinking about people who maybe can't afford to stay on campus or be in person, or like looking towards FG practices. Like I know that those practices take up a lot of time, that people have work or classes that coincide. So meeting with them one-on-one and finding alternative ways for them to still participate, trying to make sure that they're still able to do the things that they want to do. I remember what I was going to say earlier was to establish individual connections and really try to make that time one-on-one to talk to people. Anyway, I digress. I think also, no, actually, I don't think. Someone else.
I can go. I think for me, when I came into Kasamahan, I was definitely someone different. So I was like, I was kind of shy. I was like, I don't know if I can actually be in this org or even like be an ally in this org because I'm just scared. But it was such a welcoming environment when I first came in. So I feel like for me, I want to have like huge emphasis on diversity and inclusion, and like cultural understanding, and emotional intelligence when it comes into that. So I think for me, events and activities is something that I feel very fondly about because of like the events that I can prepare with my will be these events that are inclusive to everyone of any different type of race, gender, sexuality, or anything like that. So yeah, just like Janelle said with connections, I think I would also, like I said, my first point is to like kind of sit down with everyone. Not everyone, but like try and get multiple people, have at least some groups, some small groups. I'm thinking that's something that I would really love to do, is some small groups, to really get to know everybody and really get to know their capacities and what they can do. So I know what type of events to keep in mind and what type of things to strive for them, because this is something for them and me, but I'm really catering for my Kasamas. So I feel like, yeah, the small groups are something that I want to have huge emphasis on when I'm doing this.
Yeah, so for inclusion, like Janelle said, and Deja, having a variety of mediums and making the personal connections. So I know a lot of times people are scared because they're unfamiliar. So if I were to be elected, I would like to try and meet all the people I can and try to go to a lot of events. So new people can at least have one familiar face. So that'll help them to get out of the shell a little more.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's been saying about finding that medium, and I think although we are running for co-activities directors and they're like in charge of planning events and just like when I mean by events, I mean like organize, like, hey, like this day, this time, this place. Like I think to find a more neutral medium, especially to take into account those who, like for example, are commuter students and are only on campus from X o'clock to X o'clock or only here for classes. We want to make it accessible, and so rather than having events, like if we can foster like an environment, whether it's wherever you may be or there's a designated spot on campus, like if we can turn whatever's Kasamahan space into essentially an event, like that would help strengthen the social pillar.
If I can also add, if that's okay. I think kind of building off of the whole like different mediums and platforms for connection and socialization, I think also recognizing that like our Kasamas are interested in so many different things. So of course we have like the dodgeball tournament, that's one thing. We could go into arts, we can go into nature, we could go explore collaborations with like cultural and community and political affairs directors. Whoa. So just really exploring all the different interests, passions, and talents that each Kasama holds. So I do recognize that maybe not every event will cater to every person. So trying to find a space where each person can find their niche and can explore that.
This next question is from Christian. The process of planning FG comes with a lot of logistics and collaborations, but there are times when things don't go according to plan, or we face obstacles that were unforeseen. How do you handle situations like this?
I think for me, and I'm just taking this into my other leadership job that I have for Go Team, and it's events and activities, always being flexible. Like things change so much that you can never be comfortable. So I think I'm never comfortable in like whatever I have planned. I'm like, okay, this could change. Something can happen. So I think, at least for me and my co, I think being open-minded and staying flexible just with our events, because anything can happen at any given moment, especially because we're still in a pandemic. Anything can kind of rock things sideways, and we have to change the event, even though we've been planning for it for so long. And something like FG is huge. So I think for me, it's just to stay connected, stay talking to my co, making sure we are on track with what we want to do, but also just remembering to talk to each other and be like, this can not go as planned. That's okay, and we have a backup.
All right, so especially for FG, from what I know and from what I've asked, is it takes a lot of planning. Like, it starts early in the summer, just the planning ahead. Because of how much effort and work it takes, I think keeping it simple is probably the best thing you can do. As complicated as planning it could get, I think communication and transparency is one of the biggest things, because at the end of part of the planning I understand is the hotel and the bus company. I know there was miscommunications with the bus this year, and just with the hotel, stuff happens. It's the real world. We're not in a controlled environment, so literally anything could happen. And so I think just being flexible, of course, and being transparent with everything is a way to make FG planning a lot smoother. And that goes for just the membership too, communicating the importance of participation and attendance, and if you can't make it, having the communication go both ways as well.
Yeah, with anything in life, things can go wrong, especially when you're trying to transport 100 college students to South California. But yeah, I like to think I'm a person who works very well under pressure, and of course the first thing is not to panic. And I also have, as co-directors, I'll have another person we can lean on each other to figure out anything and resolve any issues.
I want to emphasize what Deja said. I think having backups, having other ideas is always important. Quite honestly, I anticipate that not everything, or maybe most things, will not go according to plan, and that's the nature of a lot of things, especially large-scale events like this. And I think something I really want to emphasize that I didn't always in the past is reaching out and asking for help, utilizing different resources, utilizing other people, not just my co-director, but also the rest of board, people who serve in the position previously, our other alumni, as well as, of course, our advisor, Danielle. Reaching out to them and seeing their perspective on things. I know that I'm only one person, and even though I technically hold the position that's maybe in charge of overseeing FG along with someone else, I recognize it's not just me that's putting work into this. There's so many different moving parts to FG, and so many different things that all the directors, everybody in Kasamahan is involved in. And so I do want to, of course, maintain that transparency, as FG was saying, as AJ was saying, I'm sorry. Maintaining that transparency and keeping open communication with the rest of the board. I think in the past I've had a tendency to try and do things on my own, but I know that that doesn't do me justice, nor does it do the rest of the org justice. So I'm making sure that I'm opening those spaces for discussion with the rest of the board, reaching out for input, for perspectives, for ideas, and finding a way that everyone can agree on to approach any conflicts.
Acknowledging that there are a variety of different leadership styles, what leadership traits do you possess, and how will you apply these traits in your role as an activities co-director? How does this play a role in how you communicate with your co-AD to ensure that both of your visions are being heard?
So leadership for me has been a big thing for the longest time. I definitely think my biggest strength when it comes to leadership is just the experience, because being able to be a leader, it's already hard enough to step up to it. But I think I just had enough time where it's not one of those things I really think to do and to step up and be a leader. It's just natural, where if something needs to get done, someone's got to do it, and if no one's gonna do it, you just gotta get it done. And the important thing of being a leader too is what comes with being a leader is you're guiding the rest of whether it's your partner, your group, your team, whatever the setting may be, you're essentially being the guide to whatever your main goal is. And so I definitely think I have the skills already practiced, and sorry, I definitely think I have the skills practiced, and I have learned to become flexible and like at the same time adapt with different styles of leadership.
I think for me, maybe two or three big things for me when it comes to leading is definitely communication, open-mindedness, and then just energy. So at least for me and my I think I really want for them to be able to lean on me as much as they can, because this is a hard position and we're going to be working throughout the semester, and things come up we just talked about, things that are unexpected that you never know could happen. So at least for me and my and like when it comes to leadership, I think that I can uphold these values, just being a team leader, being a team player, for them, also our former Kasamas, for these events since they're so strategic. But yeah, I think that's.
I feel like I'm the type of leader, I like to listen to all input first before coming to a decision. So working with my we can come up with any and all ideas before we finalize what we want to do. And I believe that will help us to keep communication, transparency, and come up with the best compromise for whatever issues we face.
I think I just love people so much. And I genuinely mean that. Like, that's what brought me here in the first place, and that's what keeps me here for the next 2 years. I'm just truly just feeling that love and that desire to make this a good experience for all of you, for the years that will come after us, to plant that seed in all of you. Like as AJ was saying earlier, like, I look at so many of you, like little first years, and I'm like, you guys are going to be the ones leading the way in the future. And so making sure that you feel that love and you feel that welcoming. And so that's what keeps me here and will always keep me here, is that love for you and our culture and how we can celebrate that together. And honestly, I love working with a co-director that has a different leadership style than me. I say this a lot, I think, like to Rihanna like in our committee, but I love that when I work with someone who has a different leadership style, who has a different experience, they bring so many different ideas and perspectives to the tables, there could be multiple tables. They look at things differently in a way that I couldn't. And I think by combining those different perspectives, that's how we can create the best possible experience for all of you. And so I really do try my best to lead with love and empathy. All that I do is for the people. And I mean that so genuinely. I just love people, guys. Honestly, I do. And that's why I would love to be able to serve in this position and to create that connection for all of you to love each other, to love yourselves, and to love the future generations that will come after you. I know love is a term that we can throw around very easily, and I recognize that. But genuinely, like, I felt it be given to me, and I hope to always give it in return to all of you. And to my co-director, who sits on my board as well. Yeah.
During the summer and fall semester, this position is heavily involved with planning. However, you still come first as a person. How do you plan on utilizing your code to balance your schedules and prevent burnout?
At least for me, with my other organization, I feel like for me, as soon as I know who my is for this position, I'm immediately calling them or trying to get their number if I don't already have it. And then I'm immediately scheduling a time where we can meet and hang out. Because I think that it's important to hang out with your or especially if we start to do this like towards the end of summer and things like that. I think it's so important to hang out with them before you get started into work, to like have this communication, transparency, and also just like friendship before you can even show other people friendship and spirit and pride and unity. So I feel like with my code, we need to have that first before we can go ahead and show this for other people. So yeah, I also want my code to know that they can always lean on me. If they're feeling burnt out, they know I got them. You know, everybody feels burnt out here and there. I also don't want my code to think that like they can do everything. I want you to like utilize me and I can utilize you. We're in this together. This isn't a one job. This is two people makes the team and makes the dream work. So I think for me and my co, I think it's really important for us to hang out first and build that bond. So when we come back and we have to do friendship games, it's going to be so fun because we are friends and we're going to show everyone what we can bring to the table for friendship games. If it requires stuffs, games, skits, and everything that we have to do for that, I think my coach should know that I'll always be here for them and that they can lean on me whenever. I don't ever want them to feel like they have to do something by themselves or they can't, like, we can't trust each other or anything like that. I want it to always be open, and I think that's also something with me and my style is in leadership is that I'm very open and very assertive, but in a good way. Like assertive in the way of like, yeah, we can talk. Like you can talk to me, you know, and that can be hard for most people to just talk or even, especially if they didn't grow up, you know, just being able to ask for help. So I think for me, with my co, we're gonna grow together and just grow up because I think we can show each other two different sides of things and two different like fields of play when it comes to how we were raised and how we grew up, and we can converse those together and make something great. So I think, yeah, that was for me.
Yeah, I definitely think that because you have a co-director, like, use each other, like, teamwork, and, like, as a social pillar, like, we emphasize, like, working together, like, being together, importantly, but definitely I think it's important to be on the same page, always. That's why it's important to be transparent. It's important to keep communication, especially with your co-director. You can't have a machine running and then one is going, like say one belt is going in one way, the other's going the other. Like you gotta have everything moving together. Like for my basketball background, at least, team chemistry is everything. So if you can build that chemistry where to essentially get on the same wavelength, simply put it, if you guys are on the same wavelength, then things are gonna go a lot smoother. You don't have to, I'm not saying you have to have the same ideas or be thinking the same way, but if you can understand each other and have that even deeper understanding where they don't have to say anything or you don't have to say anything and you guys are just clicking and firing on all cylinders, you'll have a really smooth experience working together.
Yeah, like I said, so far I agree, like you need to really build that relationship with your co, and that's of course through bonding. So of course hanging out with them before you have to actually start working so you can build the relationship. Another big thing I believe is honesty, not even just with your co, but with yourself, how much you can take on, how much you can handle. So it's important to recognize when you need to ask for help or recognize maybe they need help and you can offer it.
I think that the relationship between co-directors is never really going to be 50-50 as much as we may think it has to be or might want to be. It could even be like 51-49 or something more extreme like 90 or 10. Like there are going to be days where either myself or my co-director just doesn't have the capacity to fully participate in that work, and that's okay because I know that they would do the same for me and pick up that extra work. So I think, of course, like as they've said, it's important to maintain that transparency with ourselves and with our co-directors and making sure that we're being honest when maybe we do need to step back and making